Yep.
So I'm
And
sharing it to the group.
awesome. Thank you, everybody, for being so patient with me and technology. I appreciate that. Um,
Okay.
okay. And I'm refreshing the group. And there it is. Okay, I see it in the group. So I know that at least the group can see it. Also, this is real life. You will hear and see my children everywhere because this is their house. I only live here and pay the mortgage. So this is real life. But thank you, everybody, for being super, super patient. So today we are going to get right into it. We're having a Facebook conversation. This was not exclusively, I would say, for Charles County Rise. It's just for Charles County period, like for our community, for parents and caregivers, and everyone that's interested in learning a little bit more about what are charters and how do they differ a little bit from our traditional public schools. We're all very super excited because we do have our first new public charter in Charles County Public Schools, which is Pasoda. It's so exciting. I can't wait. And I know a lot of parents have been waiting for this conversation. So again, if you can see it in Rise, which I think you can, I saw it in the group. And if you see it on my page, in the comments, as well as on the group, I'm going to be checking both spaces for questions. Add everything there. We'll also, if questions were not answered or because of technology, for whatever reason, we didn't get to your question, we'll make sure we send those over to Angelica. But I'd like to start off first with saying just introductions, like introduce yourselves. Everybody knows me. I'm Pascal Small. I'm one of the founding parents of Charles County Rise. I'm a super active parent here in Charles County. I have 3 small babies that, again, you will see for sure at some point tonight. But introduce yourself.
Sure. Thank you, Pascal. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us this evening and welcoming me into the space. Thank you, Pascal, for agreeing to partner with us on this Facebook conversation. I'm part of Charles County Rise. As a parent, I have a kindergartner and I am a new mom of 2. I also have a 2-month-old, and we are here in Charles County. I am Angelica Jackson. I am the lead organizer and now the CEO of Phoenix International School of the Arts, Charles County's first public charter school. I am from Charles County. I went through the public school system here and I've returned to the community with my heart and mind set on giving back to the town and the county and the people and loved ones that raised me up. And I am building the school of my dreams. And fortunately, along this journey, I've been able to reach out to families all over the county, and they have resonated with this dream. And now we're building the school of our dreams for young people in the community. So I'm glad to be here tonight. I'm a longtime educator and entrepreneur and artist. And I just love this work that we're doing. So I'm happy to answer any and all questions you have about public charter schools, as well as about Pasoda specifically. And I'll pass it to our special guest, Mr. Mike Chalupa.
Hi, everybody. Pascal, Angelica, thanks so much for having me tonight. I'm Mike Chalupa, and I'm the director of the City Neighbors Foundation. And we have 3 arts integrated project-based public charter schools located in Northeast Baltimore, 2 K-8s in the high school. And our oldest school is 18 years old. So we are one of the oldest charter schools here in Maryland. And I've had the pleasure of knowing Angelica for a while now and seeing her on her journey of creating this great school that's about to open. So I'm so excited for her and for all of you and for Charles County.
You and me both. We are so excited. As soon as I heard, well, first, a little background for me. I moved here during the pandemic. And when I moved to Charles County, I moved specifically for the schools. I looked, I researched, I did all the things a parent is supposed to, but I was very surprised coming from California that I did not see any charters. And so it got me to start thinking, like, what does high quality, public options look like for families down here? And then I met Angelica and she told me her vision and I saw it was coming and I got so excited. So Angelica, I want to give you a little bit of space to share with everybody, what is Pasoda?
Sure. Well, first, I'll start with what are public charter schools. So
Yeah.
public charter schools are new to this area. And there's, some people are familiar. I would say people who are in education are familiar, but the majority of us were not familiar with public charter schools. So it is a public school, meaning that there's no tuition, there's no admissions test that's needed to be granted admission into the school. It's public, it's free. It is a charter school because it's run by a nonprofit organization in the state of Maryland, and the nonprofit partners with the school district under a charter agreement. So basically just like a contractual agreement that allows the nonprofit to implement a specialized program in this public school that may not be offered in the school district currently. So PSOTA, Phoenix International School of the Arts, is this public school operated by a nonprofit in partnership with Charles County Public Schools to operate what we all know as an arts integrated school that also has a deep grounding in international education and global citizenship. And so we are serving grades 6 through 8 here in Charles County. And really, we are creating a community that really focuses on art and innovation, at cultivating youth to harness what we believe is their creative intuition, which means it's already a part of them. And we want to help cultivate them to be able to use their creativity for healing, for community engagement, and generally for communal and global uplift. And so that's what we're doing here in the community. And we started this process to open PSOTA back in 2019, I would say more formally.
Wow.
That's when we started having very early conversations with our friends, with family here in Charles County. We had early conversations with district leaders, sharing our vision and asking, how should we open the school? Should it be a magnet school? Should it be a traditional public? Should it be a private school? We ended up landing on the charter school model because it is a free option for families. And because with charter schools, we are able to offer enrollment to everyone in the county. It's not a certain zone. So here in Charles County, Mike, you have to have, you go to the school that is zoned for your neighborhood, your residents.
Yeah.
And so as a charter, we don't have to abide by that zoning. We can be available to any and all students. And so we ended up landing on the charter school model. And so that's who we are. We are really focused on family engagement, of course, arts education and integration, and then the global citizenship piece as well.
I love how innovative charters can be. Can one of you speak on why is it that charters are able to have that wiggle room for innovation? Why are you able to be a little different within the public setting? How do we do that?
Mike, would you like to speak to that?
I can start and then build on it. First of all, charter school law is different in every state. But here in Maryland, charter schools are required to follow, by law, they're required to follow all of the Maryland state regulations. And in most districts, they're required to follow board policies, board declared policies. And all teachers in charter schools in Maryland are unionized. So that's actually quite a few more restrictions than happen in many charters across the nation. So we are really, in some ways, as Angelica put it, partners with districts because we are so embedded in the district. But outside of that, everything else is created by law for space for innovation. So what curriculum we implement, what's the pedagogical approach, how we choose to build our culture in our schools, in some ways, how we choose to govern our schools. So by law, it creates this sort of space within those confines for that innovation to happen, as long as we're meeting the requirements of the state board policies and union negotiations.
And I'd like to add to that, one of the reasons why, and again, I mentioned we had those early conversations with district leaders and things like that. And another reason why we landed on the charter school model is because of the efficiency that charters can implement new ideas and pilot new ideas. In traditional public charters, there's a few more regulations when it comes to piloting a new program. And in charters, because of our charter, the Maryland Charter School Law, we're able to sort of fast track and be very responsive to the needs of our schools community and of the community in general. So the charter school law does allow us the autonomy to try new things and be very responsive.
And honestly, as families, like we love that. Absolutely love that, especially from the moment that we just came from and we're still dealing with the ramifications of the pandemic. Families are looking for things to be a little bit different. We didn't really want to go back to normal. We wanted to see innovation. We wanted to see someone pour into our babies and really see the brilliance in them. And how do we get them to love learning again and want to come to every day and seek out those passions and curiosities. So I love what I'm hearing. You mentioned something around Pasota does have the option to have a little bit more flexibility in you don't have to abide to the zoning, right? So families really across our district and even outside of our district can apply to Pasota. Can you, because my kids are really little, as you saw, my kids are 6, 5, and 3, so I'm not quite there yet, but I will be, so save me a thought. Can you explain a little bit
It
about
doesn't
the
work that way.
I was about to say that. We
No.
can't exactly save you a
This
thought.
is where my question is coming. Can you explain the application process a little bit?
Absolutely, absolutely. So by law, if we receive, well, first of all, I'll start here. We have to do an application process, mostly because we are a smaller school. Charter schools tend to be smaller than the traditional public, and so there's only a certain amount of spots available for families. And then when we and so we collect applications to fill those spots. And when we receive more applications than there are spots available, we have to do a lottery by law. And so this lottery is now digital. Perhaps people used to actually draw names. I don't know, but it's
We used to
a
do
lot
it out
of
of a
us.
pretzel jar. We literally had
Oh,
a
did
pretzel
you?
jar. We
way.
did one out of another. When we started
Yeah.
18 years ago, yep, little pieces of paper in a pretzel jar. Sorry, go ahead.
So that is how it used to be done manually. But nowadays we've all leveled up and replaced more efficient digital platforms, that are secure and allow for fairness and accuracy. And so we use a digital platform to run this lottery, this randomized lottery. However, with the lottery, I will say at Pasota, it may be different for city neighbors, but at Pasota, we have 2 periods for the application. You have like an open enrollment period, and this open enrollment period is where we are openly accepting applications, and it's everyone who applies during that period are able to be part of that lottery. And then after the open enrollment period, we call it the post enrollment period. We keep our application open, but those names will automatically be added to the wait list as they cannot be part of that lottery. And so with that, we run the lottery. Part of the lottery, we do have some priorities. And the priorities are really meant to make sure that we, one, honor the people who have been with us on the governance team. So our board members, any staff that have school-age children that are eligible for our school, for the grades we serve. And then we also make a great effort to keep families together when we can. And so we do have a sibling priority as well. And so basically that means those who have a priority, they will have a higher preference in the lottery. And so their names will usually have more weight to them, their applications, when that lottery is run in our system. And so that's pretty much what our enrollment process is like. As we move from the lottery and we go into the waiting list, we then have a wait list that's for everyone, again, who applied post enrollment, and then everyone who were part of the lottery but were not selected in that randomized lottery. It's that I understand the reason why we have to have a lottery, but I think we were talking about this earlier. It just hurts my heart that we have had to wait list, that we have to have a wait list period, but that we have had to wait list so many people. Yeah. Fortunately, Pasota's mission resonated with so many families. And I'll tell you, when we started 3-4 years ago, having these conversations with families, I had mothers like myself, fathers in tears talking about the reasons why they are interested in Pasota. I spoke to brilliant kids sharing about why they wanted to be part of a community like ours. And so to have those families, be with those families from 3-4 years ago, and then they may not have been accepted through the lottery, it just honestly breaks my heart. Like, but what has been important to us and what we've been doing even before we opened up the enrollment is engaging families in programming outside of the school. And so because we are a nonprofit, right, we have to have that nonprofit status and we're operated by a nonprofit, we can offer programming that aligns to PASOTA's mission outside of the school. So we've done, I think we may have some families here who have been part of our Dream Academy, which is this arts and global citizenship program that we've run. We have a program called Beats, Bars, and Social Justice, which is one of our music education programs, where we partnered with this amazing artist out of Baltimore named Maimuna Mumu Fresh Youssef. And she's an amazing singer. And we co-created this program for music education and social justice. So these are programs that we offer for all ages outside of PASOTA that align with our work. And so that's how we want to continue to engage and make sure that the culture that we are dreaming up for PASOTA, the educational programming that's part of PASOTA, we can, give that to our community as well, even those who are not part of PASOTA's school community.
And I want to make sure I get the links afterwards to put them in the comments so that everyone knows about the other programs that they can be a part of if for whatever reason they did not get into PASOTA, which, yes, we talked about it earlier. It does break my heart because, of course, you want every baby to have this opportunity. I did have a question in terms of the waiting list, because I know this is one of the questions that some of our parent leaders had. Is there also a hierarchy within the waiting list? Like once you went throughout the application process, now you're on a waiting list. Is there some hierarchy there, or is it also lottery random based? Is it that whoever's next in line gets it?
Sure. So the waiting list is chronological order by the time and day that a person has submitted their application. But there are priorities in the waiting list as well. So the priority in the waiting list is sibling accepted. So if a family has applied and their sibling has been accepted, then the other sibling number 2, that's on the waiting list will kind of be at the top of the waiting list. And then again, if a board member's child or a PASOTA staff member's child is on the waiting list, their priority will be higher. So those are the 3 priorities. So as people continue to apply, so we've had questions like, oh, my number changed. I was number 1, now I'm number 5 or something like that on the waiting list. I'll say there's a lot of movement on the waiting list. So I would not look at it every day because it's almost like the stock market, like it just moves up and down, because as more people learn about PASOTA, now that we opened our enrollment, we're continuing to get applications. And so families self-select. We have questions in our application that say, are you a staff member of PASOTA, or are you on the board of PASOTA, or something like that. And so families can self-select whichever, but we have to verify it on the back end. So if they self-select it and they go on our waiting list, they'll automatically go on the top. But then we have to verify, and so that'll push everyone else to a higher number. But then we have to verify it on the back end and say, oh, is this person a part of our board? Yes or no. Is this person a staff member? Yeah. We only have 2 full-time staff right now, so we know it's not a staff member at the moment. And so then we have to go in, and say no. And so then everyone's number moves again. So there's a lot of that movement, and we wanted to make the waiting list public so you can not show the waiting list so it doesn't cause any anxiety for parents and things like that. But we wanted to make it public so that families can see what this process is like. And we are all about being transparent and, just open. And so that is why we decided to make it public. But I know we've had families that were concerned and wondering what's going on. So I will say the names on the waiting list, those who applied during the lottery, they're going to be higher up on the waiting list as well. So Yeah, so those who applied during the open enrollment period and got on the waiting list, they're higher than those who applied post-enrollment.
Okay, everybody,
Hopefully that
I
makes
see
sense.
no, that doesn't make sense. Okay, everybody, I changed one of the settings, so now everyone should be able to see, because some people are like, oh, because we're not friends with everybody. They're like,
Oh, yes,
hey, can you please add me? Or just want to make sure all the families are able to see it. So
that is a public
I will,
video.
yeah. So to my RISE leaders, please share with the families in the comments that it is now public. It is fully public. Everyone can add it. I will also make my page public. All the access to
Thank you
information.
so much, Pascal.
All of it. Because we don't
You're like,
want
all the
information to be a
access.
barrier. All of it, fully
And please,
transparent. Everybody gets it.
we're recording too. So if
Yes.
anyone would like this video, they can email Charles County RISE team.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Put it also
okay.
in the chat, put in the comments, put it in our group, and we'll make sure that we do bits and pieces too. We always like to edit out some of the things and answer the one specific question someone had and post it in the group. And because we want to make sure you have access to the information. Charters are very new for a lot of our families. So we want to make sure they understand what do they look like, and what's this process like, and what they can do. If maybe the child didn't get in this year, what do we do next year? And then what's the vision? Mike, I have a question for you. In everything that what Angelica was saying, that's pretty standard, right? Because I know I'm coming again from California. I've seen what charters look like there, but in terms of the application process, that's super standard, right?
Absolutely. She described exactly how we go about it in Baltimore. And every charter school in Baltimore City follows the same process in the same exact way that Angelica laid it out. So there's definitely law that codifies the process as well. So, but even district to district, it's exactly the same as she does it.
So Angelica can't change the lottery process. She can't save me a seat. I can't,
she
make her
cannot.
tamales and quickly put all my kids in there. Okay, you see. So just wanted to make sure, because again, we want to make sure that this is standard. How are we going about the process? If parents didn't get in this year, that first of all tells me we need more access to high quality public options. I think that's the first thing that I think of, is that I want to make sure that every child has the opportunity to amazing, rigorous, affirming places of joy for learning. But what do you all think? What are your thoughts? If a family doesn't get in this year, what do you think?
Well, I'll pass that over to Angelica. I just will say one thing. It was at the third year of City Neighbors where we had 500 applicants for 25 or 30 spots.
Wow.
And it was at that lottery that we decided to open a second City Neighbors school. So Angelica, Pasota 2 in what, 3 years? 4 years?
Exactly.
Okay.
Next year.
Yeah, sorry,
my delegates watching.
As I start sweating.
I know, sorry, too soon? Okay.
I completely agree, Pascal. One thing that the pandemic has made clear is that families are here and want to be involved and care about their kids and are showing up for their kids. And they want to have, holding us accountable, they're holding educators accountable, holding the school district accountable, and they're being vocal about their needs and desires for the kids. And what that has shown me, one, it does affirm that Pasota needs to be here at this time, and that there should be additional free public options for children who learn in a multitude of ways. There are, in the conversations that I've had with families, they'll say, oh, my child learns a little bit differently, or they need something that's more project-based, that they like to be hands-on. And some of our schools they felt were not meeting with the needs of their children. And so when they heard about Pasota and what we were offering, which is something different in addition and additive to our school district, that aligned more with their children. And so I do believe and agree with you wholeheartedly that having additional high quality public options is what is needed here in Southern Maryland, specifically in Charles County. And with Pasota, we are kind of creating the blueprint. And I just want to say that I am open. I am very open source, meaning that I am willing to share the journey and how this process happened for our team with any and everyone. So if there are some folks out there who are saying, I want to open up a public charter school, or I'm interested in learning about the process, please feel free to get in touch with me, because it's needed. Families, I will say, start with talking to your friends, talking to families, talking to young people, because they will tell you what they need.
And I love that. We've talked about this a little bit, Angelica and Mike. I know you know, like, declining enrollment, it's happening nationwide. A lot of our families during the pandemic, they're like, this is not working and this is not sustainable. And today we're saying the same thing, like, something's got to change. And we see that there are amazing, high quality public options for families. There's places of innovation, and we want that. Like, which parent wouldn't want that? So when PASOTA opened up, like when the application process opened up, I heard from so many families that, you know what, if I don't get in, I'm homeschooling. I'm homeschooling till next year because I'm going to apply again. And if I don't get in at that point, I'm going to homeschool again until I can apply again. Like, families are just deciding that, like, if this system's not working for me, if my current public school is not working for me, and there is no other high quality public option, then I'm just going to have to figure it out myself. And so to me, it's a blessing to have PASOTA in our community, because it keeps families in our system. It keeps them, yes, and it gives them that high quality public option, because private schools are also expensive. Sometimes, you know, homeschooling may not be the route for everybody. But I just love the fact that there is a high quality public option now that families do have an opportunity to go to. And it's almost like they're like, all right, I'm going to give it a chance. I'm going to stay within the system. I'm going to try to give this one a chance. And I'm wishing them the most, like, joyful experience. I just can't wait.
Mike, were you going to say something? I saw.
I was just going to say, just on that, Pascal, I think I saw a statistic today that in the last few years through the COVID pandemic, I think traditional public schools lost about 1.5 million students across the country, and charter schools grew by 250,000 students, right? So this statistic spoke to your sense that parents are looking for other options that really meet the needs of their children.
And if we can see some of the things that PASOTA is doing, because again, PASOTA is within our district. It is part of CCPS. It's part of the family. So if CCPS sees some of the great innovative things that PASOTA is doing, maybe we can mirror that in some of our traditional public schools within CCPS. It's supposed to be a partnership. The other question I had, because this is coming from our families, we want to make sure that when we're talking about access to high quality opportunities, we're also talking about transportation. Mike, down here in Southern Maryland, we're like rural, urban, suburban, we're all spread out. So we want to make sure that families actually can get there. Is there going to be, one of the questions was, is transportation going to be provided for kids that are going to be going to PASOTA?
Pascal, it is such an interesting mix here. You are absolutely right, because I live in rural Maryland, but you have the suburban, and then some areas people consider urban. I lived in New York City for some years, and I would just consider all Charles County rural compared to
rural. Me too.
Right, because you're from Oakland. But yes, transportation is provided, because we do not have public transit that could bring kids to school. So we are partnering. This is part of our partnership with Charles County Public Schools. We are using the bus system. And so any and everyone who is coming to PASOTA will be able to get on the bus to come to PASOTA. And so the schedule and routes and everything, parents will receive that information the same way they received it this year if they're currently enrolled in CCPS. And so that'll be coming out like in the late summertime, your bus route and things like that.
I just want to
car riding as well.
I just want to say kudos to you, Angelica, and PASOTA for that, because just charter school law doesn't require that for transportation to be provided to charter schools. So the fact that you and your team are taking that above and beyond all the other obligations you're going to have is really great to provide access. So kudos to you.
Thank you so much, Mike. And if we want to be open and honest in this conversation.
Yes. Absolutely.
I will say, just speaking to, so Mike said, in the charter school law, charter schools it's not required that transportation is provided. Of course, we thought in order to be equitable for our scholars and families here, we needed we needed transportation provided, but it is a huge expense. So this is kind of a transition into more of the operations of public charter schools. So we are funded the way traditional public schools are funded. However, so that means that we receive a per pupil dollar amount, so per student dollar amount, like all of the other public schools in the county. However, we receive a little bit less because we have to, for this partnership with the county, with the school district, we have to pay an admin fee, essentially an administrative fee. So that comes off the top of our per student dollars. And so as a charter, however, in a nonprofit, we supplement that with grants and, partnering with funders and things like that. And that is what my role as CEO, that's one of a big piece of my role, is talking to funders and seeking sponsorships and things like that so that we can truly give our families what they need, and above and beyond what they need. But having to pay the district that 2% off the top of our per student dollars, plus what we have to pay for transportation. That's a plus. It's a big expense, but it was something that we knew we needed to provide.
Yep, absolutely. Well, something important you just mentioned, Pasoda is actually then bringing dollars into CCPS. It's actually bringing, not only is it keeping families, which again keeps also dollars within our district, so that also goes into other public schools that we have and to the children in those schools, but it's also bringing other money into CCPS. So how amazing is that? Like, how amazing is that?
So we have several families who were once being homeschooled, who are now saying they're coming back into the school district, and so that's more dollars there, because that means that we will now receive more funding because of a higher enrollment. And we have families that some of them were in independent schools, who are wanting to join our school district. So then they're now being enrolled in public schools. And then on top of that, like I said, with the partnering with funders and grantors and philanthropic organizations, these are additional dollars that are now coming to Charles County that that we'd never seen before. An example is we were part of this fellowship called Camelback Ventures. And as part of that fellowship, we receive a certain amount of grant money. And so Camelback Ventures had never partnered with a founding group or with a school in Maryland ever. And so with us being the first, now Charles County is being put on the map.
I love it. I'm here
We're
for
on the
it.
radar of the national grant making, and not just grant making, but mission aligned. Like, these are people who believe in equitable schools, who believe in access, who believe in education innovation, because we're not going to just partner with anybody. We want to make sure that we're aligned with their mission, Charles County now has the attention of those types of organizations. So, and then there's also, I think I shared this with you, the charter school program that the Maryland State Department of Education facilitates. And so previously, Charles County was not could not qualify for that program, which is a grant making program. But now that we have a charter school, we've become eligible for that grant making program at the Maryland State Department of Education. So certainly bringing dollars to our babies here in Charles County.
And resources, because like you said, all of that can lead to the other schools that we have also within our system and just to the community as a whole. So like, how magical is that? I can't say enough good things about the magic that public charters can bring into a community. I absolutely love it. And again, you're held to the same standards as our traditional public schools. So that means same accountability measures, same kind of assessment, right? All of those things are the same.
If I could just, yes, it's all the state assessments are required for charter schools. I would actually say that charter schools have a higher accountability measure, because what you get for all the trade-off of a charter school is you get all of this autonomy. but you also have greater accountability. So, and it's slightly different in each district, but for every 3 or 5 years, the district does a full review with many, many different accountability measures. And a charter school that's failing would just not continue at that point, right? Whereas
Yes,
but
okay.
a public school uses the same measures, but it will continue indefinitely regardless of how well it does or not. So I think the accountability measures are actually quite a bit higher for charter schools than they are for traditional public schools.
Absolutely. Thank you for saying that piece, because I remember in California of that review process that charters had to go through. And those were public. Like, we got to also kind of witness that
Yep.
in real life time. And if there was something going on, unfortunately that charter just would not get renewed. But most of the time, like, it was just a lot of information, looking at the budget, looking at the outcomes, looking at staffing. And it was pretty magical to be able to see all that. So you're totally right. Held to a really high standard. And we're really excited to see what this is going to lead to for families. I think I asked this already, but I want to make sure for the families that applied but have not yet been accepted and they're added to the wait list, like, what should we tell those families? What would you like to tell them as they're kind of waiting, waiting to see what happens? And if unfortunately, because not everyone can get in and we've shared that, what should they do for next year?
Absolutely. So first, again, I just want to say for everyone who has applied and if you have landed on the waiting list, first of all, it is not my preference to have the waiting list. If I had indefinite resources or just a larger space or whatever it may be, I would want everyone to be part of Pasoda School Community in our first year. But I just said in our first year. So that means that there will be additional opportunity to be part of our school community, because as we grow, so as we go into year 2, year 3, year 4, and so on, our enrollment numbers are allowed to grow. So that means we'll have more space for 6th grade, we'll have additional spots for 7th and additional spots for 8th grade in the next year, which means a greater chance for more people to be part of our school community. And then we've shared with many people, and I'll share here that we are intending to also serve high school grades. So right now we're 6-8. And then in our year 2, our goal is to also be to add 9th grade. So that 8th grade class will move up to 9th grade and all the way until we're at full capacity 6th through 12th grade. And so there will be additional opportunities to join the school community, even if you're starting at the high school levels in future years. So if you are on the waiting list, just stick with us. I also shared that we do have programming, again, as a public charter school. We are a nonprofit. We're operated by a nonprofit. And so our nonprofit, in addition to operating Pasoda, also does programming for the community at large for all ages. So we have arts education programming, global citizenship programming for families. And those programs align to the instruction that's happening at Pasoda. So it's just very important for us. We, from the beginning, have been in community and with our community. And so it's important for us to continue engaging the community in instruction and structured programming, even though it may not be happening during the school day. We all know that out of school time programming is super important. And so we're like, this will not just be available to our students, but to the community at large.
Angelica, can I just ask a logistical question to see if it's the same? So if I'm a parent who applied this year but by the end of the summer, I haven't been accepted, I need to actually reapply for the following year. I don't stay on a wait list permanently, right?
Thank you for raising that. Yes. So after the summertime, so we actually have to stop our waiting list once the school opens. So that last week of August is typically when the school year starts.
Yep.
And so at that point, the waiting list officially closes. We will have the students that we have. And so everyone on the waiting list will need to reapply for the next school year. And we'll open up the application in the same way that we did this year, which was, I believe, in October. For next school year, we open it in October. So around October time this year is when families can expect to reapply. And then for families who were accepted, they do not have to reapply. they are, once you're in, and you just will continue to matriculate to the next grade.
Unless they have a new sibling that's entering now, right? Then they would. Okay.
If siblings, say one of your kids is in the school and you have a sibling on the waiting list, that sibling number 2 will need to reapply. Yeah.
Got it. Okay. And talking about engaging the community, we are now going to be going questions to the audience. So,
have people
I'm
been
curious
asking questions?
yes, we have some questions. We have some questions for Angelica and Mike. Okay, so for Mike, what do you think in terms of more charters in the state? Do you see more? Do you see an expansion of charters?
I think that's a great question. I think there's a lot of forces that that are not overly charter friendly in the state of Maryland. And I think Angelica can tell you to have sort of the will to open a charter school is a thing. Like it's not an easy process. We're starting to slowly see expansion. So Charles County has its first, Baltimore County just got its first. I believe Montgomery County is about to just get its first. So we're slowly starting to, there's a new one in Frederick County, so it's slow. So I see it, incrementally growing. But certainly the demand is huge for it across the state. So we're working on it.
Thank you. This one's for Angelica. What will be the school hours?
Sure. So our school hours will be from 7:50 a.m. to 2:20 p.m.
Awesome.
And there's likely to be after school time because as an art school, we have performances and things like that. So families who make the commitment to join the school should expect to be in school quite a bit.
Another question is, what is parent engagement like?
Sure. So great question. We have a pretty comprehensive plan for family engagement. So one is we are committed to having a parent or guardian on our governing board. That's important to us, as well as a scholar on our governing board. So that means that this family member is in the decision-making process of the school and the school's future. We also will have a family advisory council. And so these are those parent leaders and guardians that are wanting to lead and really be the voice for the larger student body and their families. And then we also we have a family engagement specialist that's on our team that ensures that they are liaising between the families and the school leaders. And then one other thing I'll mention is we talk about crew and our social emotional learning and how we work in crews. And that's a whole other conversation that we can have if you'd like. But these crews are these sort of smaller groups of scholars, and they have these courageous conversations in their crews. And so we will also have crews based on arts disciplines. So the parent and guardians of all of our acting students will be a crew, and the parent and guardians of our dance students will be a crew. And so they will have courageous conversations in their crew. They will advocate for their kids and their kids' arts disciplines to the school administrators and things like that. So a pretty comprehensive plan to engage families in all aspects of the school.
I love that. And how can families, like once everyone school starts and everything, all that information will be given to families of like how to apply for those things and how to be part of the conversation. And oh, I love that. That's perfect. Because sometimes you see schools that, just kind of don't open the doors to community, and that's such a missed opportunity. Because when you can actually partner in meaningful ways with parents to be part of their child's like education journey, it just gets better. Like it gets better for everybody at that point. We're all on the same page, our priorities align, and we're there doing it together. So, okay, I love that. I absolutely love that. I'm looking to see if we have any more questions. When will there be an open house?
So we've been doing virtual open houses. We did them over the past few years, honestly, and we did a bunch last fall. We will start back with virtual open houses this spring. And so, and those are public for, everyone, any and everyone to learn about PASOTA. We do have some recorded. So if there are folks who are wanting to preview one of our previous open houses, I can share a recording. And then we're in construction in our school building currently. And so when it is safe, we will start doing tours of the school building as well. So we are located in La Plata, and we will start to bring families in and allow the actual in-person open houses in the school building throughout in the late summer.
And another question to that, where is the school in La Plata?
Sure. So it is on going 301 South. Right after the police department, there's a neighborhood called Steeplechase. And at the beginning of that neighborhood, there's two buildings. And so there's an office building in the front, and then adjacent to that building is another building, and it's a 2-floor building. We will be in that building.
And we'll put the address afterwards over in the comments, because I know I shared that with one of the families, but we'll put it in the comments as well. And we'll put a couple other things in the comments as links in case anyone has any questions. I know also that a couple parent leaders, also perfect, I'll copy paste that. I know a couple other parent leaders as well as educators have been asking about all the different positions that are open at PASOTA. So for those that are trying to become part of the team, what should we tell them? Are there positions open? Who do they contact?
So we are actively in the principal hiring currently. So we have a selection committee for the principal, and that is actually a very comprehensive process where we are engaging the community. Our principal candidates will be interviewed by young people, by families. So we want to make sure that we are finding the right person for our community. But we also have, so that one's currently active. We are also hiring and accepting resumes for our registrar, who is also our family engagement specialist, as well as our senior manager of operations. So if those sound appealing to you, you can go to pasota.org/careers and check out the opportunity listings for those two positions. And we will be hiring our instructional staff soon in this spring. So we follow the school district sort of hiring timeline for those roles. So that means our math teacher, ELA, science, social studies, and we'll also have our arts instructors as well. So our actors out there, singers and vocalists, our instrumentalists, dance teachers, art history, visual artists. If that is you, you can also go to pasota.org/careers and join our talent network.
Perfect. Okay, and now you did say though, so if you become a staff member, you kind of get priority on that list, right? I'm just trying to find ways where I can get in. I'm just trying to find
Become
ways.
a staff member.
Are you an actor, singer?
Lottery,
Which one is
you get
yours?
priority.
Look, I'll figure it out.
I will say this, just to reassure everyone, only 10% of our enrollment can be filled by board member children and staff member children. So it's not like if all of the board members and all the staff members are school age children that are eligible for PASOTA, they all get in only up to 10% of our total enrollment. So I just want to put that out there so people know that not everyone's staff, all the staff's kids and all the board members' kids are in the school.
All right. Okay. I was going to get my acting up. I was like, okay, let me prepare. So I know okay, stack the odds in my favor.
Right.
Still going to figure it out by that time. Another quick question. And then actually to one of the parent leaders that asked, how are the kids going to get back and forth to school? We talked about it. It's going to be through transportation through CCPS. So just as how you have transportation right now for your traditional public school, it'll be the same way. I will say though, for our parents that are listening to this, if I don't say it, they're going to be like, what about the app? A lot of our parents, for anyone that's listening, especially our newest board members that we have elected or CCPS leadership, our parents would love to see a transportation app, some way to follow a little bit more of where's the bus? When is it coming? Is it not coming? Is it a different bus? Transportation is a huge issue for us down here. And we're actually, it's not only just unique to Charles County. There's been transportation issues just around the country in districts everywhere since COVID. So we understand that, and we're giving a little grace and patience, but an app would be really super helpful for a lot of families. So planting that seed that our families have planted as well.
Yes.
Yep. Another quick question, and this one's to Mike. We have all been talking and hearing a lot about the blueprint here in Maryland. And so public charter schools also have to adhere to the blueprint, correct?
Correct. So anything that is law, state law, that goes through COMAR impacts public charter schools as well. Although I will just say public charter schools are absent in the blueprint. So it's there. I don't think they're mentioned anywhere specifically. So the blueprint is relatively agnostic, but any general policies, practices that they've established around college and career readiness or whatever those pieces are, those would apply to charter schools as well.
And I will add, Mike, most of the charter schools that I have researched here in Maryland align, like just intrinsically align to the blueprint.
Yeah.
Their mission, their instructional model, their pedagogical approach, and the way that they operate and engage families all align to the priorities that are named in the blueprint. And PASOTA is aligned with it as well.
Yep. No, totally right. Exactly. There is another question around curriculum. What is the curriculum like for students?
Absolutely. So again, one of the benefits of a public charter school is that we're able to offer a differentiated curriculum than what one may see in the traditional public schools. And so for us, what we saw was a gap in the education system here in Charles County is one, the like holistic arts programming, as well as the international piece. And so we feel both, and we think that they are greatly aligned. So our kids will come in and have their core academics, and they'll also have their core arts classes. So part of the curriculum, a major part is that they are engaged and engulfed in the arts every single day. They select an arts major. It can be voice, it can be dance, acting, visual art, and I think instrumental, and then museum studies and new media, which is sort of like a film pathway. And so film and just a curatorial pathway. And
I want to go there. I want to do that. That last one.
They take courses just as they would have an academic pathway. They have a arts pathway aligned to their major as well. And so there's that. And then our curriculum, our academic curriculum, really draws on that international focus that we have. And that is, we are using the most widely used international curriculum in the world, which is Cambridge International. And I'm so excited. They've been a great partner to this point. They've been such a great partner. And so this is a curriculum that is recognized by universities and employers worldwide. And it places PASOTA within this consortium of schools all over the world that implement this curriculum, which is really cool. So yes, we have our community and we are engaging deeply in our community, but then we're also engaging with peers from around the world. But part of this curriculum is it's the same in terms of what are the required subjects. So our kids are still taking math. They're still taking science, social studies, language arts, which is we call English. Our social sciences are deeply embedded. They have the local piece, but they also have this, they're embedded in this global lens as well. And this curriculum is inquiry-based, meaning that the scholars are given a prompt in their class and they begin to ask questions, they research, they collaborate, they create projects, they have conversations, they do first-person interviews, and they really they question what they're learning. And so that's really important to us. And the reason why we chose Cambridge International when we were researching all of the different curricula is because this program, while it offers a structure and pathway for the scholars, it allows the instructional staff to mold the subjects and like some of the topics within this pathway to fit what's actually happening in the kids community, to make sure that we're speaking on relevant topics that kids actually want to talk about, or that's actually impacting them. And so we loved how this curricula can be molded to fit the ethos of the school, but still follow the structured pathway of growth and progression for the kids as well.
Oh, how magical does that sound? Because there's so much research, and like our kids will tell us they're so disconnected from education today. And they're just like, I'm just trying to find something that's like relevant, that speaks to me, that I know that also is going to speak to my curiosities and my passion and my purpose, and like what I'm trying to figure out as a kid, and as I'm forming my identity and it's evolving, like what do I want to do? What do I Oh, I
Especially
love that.
the middle year, especially the middle school grades.
Right, exactly. Unfortunately, our families are like calling middle school right now purgatory, because they're like, what do we like this during this time? They're like, there's just, some of the joy. It's either they're going to find it and it's there and our kids are being poured into and that's wonderful, or they're not. And then those years, it's like when you either like, where are you going to go? What's your journey now going to look like? And so to hear that there's going to be a space like it's going to pour into them so beautifully. Oh, I love it. I absolutely, and to prepare them for a global market. Like that to me, especially having had the opportunity and the gift of being raised outside of the US, I love that. Like that's exactly what I want for my kids. So this is magical. Again, save me a spot. I know that's not how it works, but don't tell me that today.
I want to bring in Mike, because Mike's City Neighbors, at least I know City Neighbors Hamilton is an arts integrated school. And so I would love, Mike, for you to just speak on like the benefits that you've seen for arts integration, and just share a little bit about the model at City Neighbors.
Sure. So we're a project-based arts integrated approach. There's going to be a lot of similarities to how you're going to be doing it at Pasoda. And really just to see students engaged in long-term in-depth project studies that are interesting to them, building creative things out of that understanding. It's really just magical to see how lit up they are. Not every moment of every day. I just want to give a little disclaimer, right? Like it's not like, there's not butterflies every moment, but so much of the time, right? It's you see deeply engaged children in the work, and not as, not nearly the resistance that you might see in traditional spaces. And I would just say and I don't know if this will be part of your curriculum, Angelica, but just today we have our middle schoolers all choose an independent project for the year that they can study anything that they want in the world. And so just today I sat with 10 middle schoolers who were creating their own baking show and talking about music revolutionaries, and and so just to see students, somebody's doing the hitchhiking robot, which I just learned about. So anyway, just to see young people talk about what they're interested in, what they want to learn, how it connects to them, and have the opportunity to explore that, it's can be super powerful.
I'm going to actually share with, go for it.
Well, when you think about what brings kids and families to school, it's always like the talent show, or, my kid is performing, or there's a poetry performance or something. And so why not embed those things into every day? Why not? We always think there's I guess a way of thinking called design thinking. And the primary question for design thinking is, how might we? So how might we integrate affirming spaces in the school? How might we get parents to come to school every day? How might we make sure that our kids, when they first enter the building, they feel a sense of calm or feel a sense of excitement? When we just dream up any and everything without any restrictions, and then we start to make it so that it can actually be implemented and sustainable. And so that's what we think, how might we create a space that allows kids to really feel like they belong in the space? How might we create a space where it's fun and exciting, where our scholars can be leaders of their own learning? And, then we just came up with Pasoda.
I love that. I shared with our families a link to what is project-based learning, just in case they haven't seen it or haven't been, or have, because you just never know, right? So I shared that, but go for it, Mike.
Oh, I was just gonna say one other piece, if I can add on to the add-on, is how much more rigorous the learning actually is that way, right? So when you are taking on a persona of a character in a play that you're reading together, or you are designing your own sculpture monument when you're trying to figure out who deserves a monument, like the kinds of thinking that is involved in the creative process is so much deeper than sort of what at least what schooling was like for me, right? Like sort of traditional and rote and answer the questions at the end of the textbook, right? Like it requires a deep level of not only understanding, but then critical thinking and application. So while it's motivating and fun and enjoying, that sometimes masks actually like how rigorous arts integrated learning is and how project-based learning is, and how much that will help them and support them as they go to high school and college and beyond.
Oh, I love that. And that's why I wanted to share that with parents. So everybody in the comments, I shared an article from Edutopia around like what is project-based learning, and I can share some other articles too. And I am going to be asking Mike and Angelica to send me all of the things because I know I want to make sure everyone has access to this information. We're going to ask one final question. And again, if we didn't get to your question, please send them to your admin here in Charles County Rise. You can send them to me, I don't mind. You can send them straight to Angelica. And I'll make sure that we send it over to Mike as well. The question that we have is around safety, because that is always a concern. That is always something at the top of parents' minds is, are my kids going to be safe when they go to school? And, you know, that's against bullying, against any other factors that our parent brains can think of because we create all the scenarios, right? So how is it that kids will be safe? What is going to be kind of like the safety policies for Episota?
Sure. So in terms of the physical plant, like our physical building, we do have to meet certain standards for safety and security. So that means we will have security cameras on the exterior of the building. We do have a vestibule, like an entrance vestibule before people can get into the building. So that means there's a door, then there's a security checkpoint or where you have to check in with the receptionist, and then there's another door that's locked. So we have that safety vestibule. We have a waiting room that is contained. So in the actual school building, we have some safety measures, of course, doors that are locked throughout the day and only have keyed entrance, that sort of thing. And then when we're thinking about the emotional safety of our scholars, that is so much dependent upon culture and the culture that we're building. And we're starting with, some of you all may have heard us speak about CREW. And this is like the foundation of our this behavior management, of our culture, of our holistic wellness plan. And that is these smaller spaces that scholars, about 12 to 15 scholars and one crew leader, which is an adult in the building, and they meet every single day. And they have these conversations about about things that are affecting them, whether it be at home, whether it be in their neighborhood, whether it be in the school, and they build this safe and trusting relationship with their small group of peers and that crew leader. They also create accountability plans. So we have, we want to trademark this, what we call an IWP. So you may have heard of an IEP, which is an individual education plan. We have an individual wellness plan. And each scholar creates this IWP with their crew leader, and they share pieces of it with their peers in their crew. And they hold each other accountable to that wellness plan. So it may be, I need to take 5 minutes away from my phone and just do some deep breathing, or I need to be better at standing up for myself, and this is how I'm going to do it. And so when there is harm done in the community, in our learning community, or when someone is not feeling safe, their peers and their crew can hold each other accountable for apologizing, for creating ways that they are going to do better. And so we want to make sure that our peers are holding each other accountable and know how to hold each other accountable in a respectful way, and that the scholars are also holding our crew leaders, our teachers and adults in the building accountable for how they are showing up in each space. And so creating this culture of accountability, of apologies, of making commitments is deeply part of our culture and how we want to ensure that our kids are emotionally safe, and that they feel affirmed and feel good and feel like they belong in the community, in the school community.
I absolutely love that. Okay, I love too much. I love all of it because like that to me sounds so proactive rather than the reactive. And if you're building that strong foundation of community and culture, like that's where if harm is done, it's actually a little bit easier then to restore that relationship and to heal as a community together. and to make sure that we are, again, pouring into our babies, making sure they feel safe, both physically and emotionally and mentally and socially. So I absolutely love that. If you have anything to share in terms of the individual wellness plan or crew in the comments, please go back to Rise and or send it to me and we'll put in the comments. But that is amazing. And I would love to see again that some of the innovative things that you all are going to start doing at Pasoda kind of spill into our traditional public schools within CCPS. That would be my dream, because there's so many times where I'm having a really great experience at my school, for example, but maybe another family down the road is not having the similar experience as I am. And that goes back to, you know, is it really equitable? Why are we having such different experiences? And we're just like up the road from each other. And I want to make sure that every baby and every parent is having joyful experiences in our schools, that our babies are attending learning environments that are joyous, safe, affirming, rigorous, like all of the things. So that's my hope. My hope is that this all spills over and we all get a little bit of that joy in every single school. I will not hold you all much longer. And my kids are like fighting the urge to not get on the Zoom call because they're like, are you done? Are you? We're coming. Oh, they're coming. Oh, I know. Angelica knows the babies. So the minute they know, like, oh, I get to get on this call with mom. They're fighting the urge. They're being really good. And dad's amazing also. So shout out also to the dads out there holding it down. Oh my goodness. So thank you both so much. Again, in the comments, I'm hearing that we've answered all the questions. This was amazing. Open houses. If anyone else has any questions, please send them to the admins in Charles County Rise. Come and be in community. Come join us. We hope to do many more of these. We hope to maybe do a part 2. I'm looking at Angelica and Mike to get more information out there to the community. And some of the different things you all touched upon, I would love for families to dive deeper into understanding, what does project-based look like? What are some of the other things that we can do differently in schools? How can we be more innovative? We still have that opportunity to do so, as ESSER dollars are still there for us to use for exactly that reason. I'm hoping we can do that. So I thank you guys so much again. And thank you everybody for tuning in. I know we went over a little bit and I'm so sorry for the technical issues. It just absolutely hates me, but we'll figure it out for next time. So thank you again for the Facebook conversation, guys.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you, everybody. All right, I'm going to stop the live stream.